Good morning, evening, afternoon to wherever you are in the world. And we're back with another podcast episode. And we have a special guest who is J.E. Glass. And she was actually one of the people that inspired me to create this podcast. And her book is in print form. So I decided to ask her, would she come back? And she did. So, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you've been up to for the past couple of years?
Absolutely. Hey, all. I'm J.E. Glass, as Dimitri so happily introduced me. And I say I've been pretty much up to the standard of what you would expect of putting a book into publish or into publication, running that gambit, especially in terms of self publishing. And trying to get my head around the game. It's a lot different than what I anticipated, than what trad initially is. So that's pretty much been my all and everything since launching in April. Is just trying to get my feet under me and figure out where to place my steps and how to further my career essentially on my shoulders alone. And then of course other real life things that go on in the background.
Mhm. So, why did you decide to come back onto the podcast?
I love doing it with you. I thought it was an amazing adventure the first time that we launched this off together, and I thought it'd be really neat to come back, with a book in hand and to kind of jump from there and see what we could talk about.
hmm I love the first time when I did it with you, and that's kind of why I continue to do it with multiple authors. You, Nicholas, and one other author has been basically my favorite because it's just like the conversation flowed so naturally and we just got along perfectly.
I'm glad, yeah, definitely glad to hear that. I always feel a little weird, like talking about myself or doing things like this. Is like, oh my god, what do I say? So I'm glad that the first time was was enjoyable.
And then the first time was actually kind of even funnier because I forgot to record. So the second
Yeah,
time,
yeah, you did.
so the second time I was just sitting there like, oh wow. So why did you decide to transfer the Undergrounder into print format?
I really wanted to reach a broader audience, and while I love ebooks, I actually don't read ebook all that often. It's a bit
Mhm.
difficult on my eyes, so I don't have an e-reader. I mean, I've got my phone, but even that I can only use like for so many hours before my eyes get tired. So I really wanted to bring a physical book into the world, to give people who are like me and who just love to thumb through a book. There's nothing quite like being able to have that like new book smell when you crack something open.
Mhm.
So I really wanted that physical representation like in my hands, as well as being able to do like signings, physical signings, and to go into bookstores and actually have a product to present to them and be like, hey, can you sell my stuff for me?
Mhm. So speaking of that, like what was the process of taking this from Wattpad to an actual printed book?
So there were a couple of steps, and there was a lot of stumbling blocks along the way. And I think I'm better versed at it now than what I was when I started. So I had to get, first the editors and the proofreaders, and I found amazing people over on Twitter. They are now my pretty much full time editors and proofreaders. I'll go back to them at all points. But you have to start there. Get your manuscript cleaned up, and then from that point, you go to formatting. I have a lovely formatter. They did an amazing job getting it ready for ebook and for physical print. Then I worked with my cover artist, Ashley, to make sure that the cover was good enough to go around the book, make all the different necessary mathematical changes, which I actually didn't realize there were a lot of that. There was a lot of that in the process. So tweaking the cover and the back and the blurb, and then finding the publishing that I wanted to go through. And I looked around a lot. I first thought perhaps I would go with Ingram, but Ingram's had some. Ingram Spark is the one I'm speaking of. Has had some issues in the past with quality, as well as some other less than savory side effects that I really didn't want to get into. And the only other one that actually had a really good print reputation aside from Amazon, which I didn't, all my eggs in one basket, didn't want to do that, was
Mhm.
Lulu Publishing, and that's who I actually crafted the physical book through was Lulu, and they have an
Mhm.
amazing print quality. I think that was the one that I sent you. Might have been one of the Lulu proofs.
Mhm.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the cover just came out so good. The pages are crisp. The printing is amazing. So yeah, all those steps led to getting my first box of books, box of
Mhm.
50, and being able to sit there and be like, wow, there's my baby.
Yeah. I can't wait. Like I'm in the final stages personal editing. So now I have to find my own editors and formatters and such
Hmm.
and such. So I can't wait to
Yeah.
actually have it. And I'm just gonna like I might cry. I really might. Um
Yeah, when you get to that point, please reach out. I will connect you with who I have, and see if it works for your budget, because that's definitely was something I needed, was someone
mhm,
who would work with mine. Even if I have a full time job, it's still pricey.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, just let me know.
mhm. So you kind of already answered this, but could you go into a bit more detail about like some specific difficulties that you had?
I think it was getting the formatting correct and the cover. Those were the two hardest points. I ran into a couple issues with the formatting, just because I had last minute changes that need to be made, and so having to go back and forth with my formatter and getting those, it was just small, like, irksome
Mhm,
things, and nothing on his that was his fault, definitely all on mine. And then just loading it up into Lulu, you have to make sure that you have
mhm,
all your specs, all your little duckies in a row, or else it'll kick it back with, hey, there's an error,
mhm,
please fix this, hey, there's an error. So it was just it's the frustrating part of going into that blind and having no idea how to do it,
mhm,
and not having anyone to fall back on and be like, is this correct? What am I doing? So I think that was the hardest part, was just learning the basics,
mhm,
and stumbling and hitting the stumbling blocks and learning.
mhm. So speaking of those like difficulties, why did you decide to go this route rather than traditional publish?
I had tried to do traditional publishing. I'd done the
Mhm,
trad route, and I gotten plenty of rejection. I did the querying process. I did that
mhm,
for about a year, and I wasn't getting any traction, no requests,
mhm,
which is fine. You have to. There's some people. You query 100, 200, 300 times before you find that right agent.
mhm,
But the more I kind of looked into the traditional publishing process, the more I really didn't like the lack of, or the control or lack of control that
mhm,
authors actually have over their work. I had a very specific idea of what I wanted my cover to look like. I had a very specific idea of how I wanted my story to be told. I didn't want somebody who didn't know me and didn't know the story I was
mhm,
trying to tell dictating what I needed to do. But
mhm,
also, it was the money aspect. Right now, I make back about 70% royalty
mhm,
on what I'm making, roughly about. That's not like the solid number, because each platform takes a little more, but
mhm,
I make about 70% royalty, and that's a far cry from what I would be making with a trad publisher, which would be around 20 to
mhm,
30%. So it's more money in my pocket. I still have to spend money in order to make that money, but at the end of the
mhm,
day, I have ultimate control.
mhm. I also kind of decided on self-publishing just because of that reason, because I have a specific vision in for my books, yeah, for my book series, and I also drop a lot of hints, and I do certain weird and unusual things, I'll say, for novels. And if I have to like take that out or re-edit it or change a scene, that might like change my whole plot line. So that's why I also personally did
All
self-publishing.
right.
That's
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
because you definitely have that control, and you know yourself what's coming, and you really don't
Mhm,
want someone who doesn't know, the ins and outs of your brain dictating what you do.
mhm,
In this case, the author does know best. At least that's, I stick by my guns on that, is that we know our stories best.
mhm.
So yeah, so that I like that you were like, "Meh, maybe not. Maybe I should, take control of this."
Mhm. Uh, so you actually already answered this question, which was why did you choose KDP over other self-publishing programs? But like if KDP was non-existent, who would be your winner?
I probably would have gone through draft to digital,
Mhm,
since, like I said, Ingram, I'm not happy with their business practices.
mhm,
There's been a lot of hinky stuff that's happened recently with Ingram, and I'm not willing to take that risk.
mhm,
So it would have been draft to digital. Even though they do use Ingram for the printing, they are their own entities. So I would have been able at least to sell through there. And I know there's a couple of other publishing sites
mhm,
that I'm not thinking of at the moment, because I always forget when I'm on the spot of like, oh yeah, I know that, and then forget it. But so it probably would have been drafted digital if KDP wasn't a an option. And also Barnes and Noble, which I was using, and still am, for a hard copy through there. I did take the digital version off of Barnes and Noble, because next month I will be running a 3-month period for doing Kindle Unlimited,
mhm.
to see how that works out.
Okay. So with all you've been through, would you recommend more Wattpad authors switch over and do like self-publishing or traditional publishing, or just change their novel into a printed version in general?
That one's a little bit difficult to answer because each person kind of has a different path, and it's all in what you want out of your novels.
Mm,
Wattpad in and of itself is an amazing entity. It gave me a really awesome platform in the beginning, and I do believe that they are focused more on their writers and their readers than most.
mm,
But it ultimately kind of comes down to, are you willing to put in the work? And that's kind of what I would have to ask somebody who's trying to make that decision. If Wattpad gives you that opportunity where they're like, hey, we'll sponsor you, obviously, like, make
mm,
sure that they check all your boxes. And if that's the way you want to go, definitely follow that route. But if it's really something that you're like, I'm not happy with
mm,
how you're doing X, Y, and Z, then maybe, yeah, check out self-publishing. But I mean, it's a lot of work. And that's something that I heard when I first started out, and I never discredited that. I knew it was, but I didn't know like how much.
mm,
So so with a better understanding of that now, it's just like, yeah, if you want to self-publish, absolutely. If you feel that's the route you want to go, definitely. But just
mm,
know that there is a lot that goes into it, and it's going to take time.
mm. I 100%, 1,000% agree, because in the beginning I was just like, oh, if I self-publish, I get to do everything on my own. And then I realized you do everything on your own. You have
Uh
to go
huh.
out and
Yeah.
yeah, you
Uh
gotta
huh.
go out and hire these people to do it for you, but they'll never do that unless you hire them.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and then it's, who do I go to? Who's reputable?
yeah,
Who's not?
hmm,
Who's gonna take my money? Who's, better bang for my buck? And you've got like
yeah.
all these things.
Hmm.
You're bombarded with information. So yeah, it's terrifying.
um, Seeing as Wattpad is kind of like a social media account, how do you think authors should use it to go about building their brand?
Since I haven't been on Wattpad in a hot minute, because I've been focusing on getting underground or published.
Hmm.
I do know that when I was there, they still had the forum rooms where you could go and chat and such, and I know that they moved to Discord. So I think it would just be like with any social media, you need to make a social media presence, and you have to kind of put the effort into reaching out and making friends, and also making like essentially like business acquaintances
Hmm.
with people. Where I don't do read for reads because I'm abysmally slow reader. But if you are someone who reads extremely fast, that would be something to look into. What I really love with like using Twitter is that I've been able to really build my brand, but I've also been able to reach out and connect to an amazing group of people in the writing community,
Hmm.
some of which who have become very close friends of mine. So it's really amazing, and it's also really important to just put yourself out there and to start getting your name known, and that also takes time. So that's, once again, it's like you're not gonna, it's not gonna be TikTok famous overnight. You gotta you gotta work at it. You might win the lottery and you might have a viral tweet and suddenly have like 10,000 followers, but even then you have to have something to offer them to kind of keep them around. So with social media, it's practice. Like with all things, just keep working at it. Build your platform, build your readership, build some friends, and go from there.
And again, I seem only to agree with you because you just make amazing points. And with your Twitter, especially, like when I get on there, it's you're interacting with people, you're commenting, you're sharing your thoughts. Like it's just so like an inviting community that I do feel like that's a contributing factor on why I think I like the underground or imprint format, because I know I can get on there and be like, oh, this character did this, and you'll probably reply and be like, yeah, da 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 da, and we'll just have like a
Oh
nice little
yeah.
laugh.
Oh yeah. Oh, no, that is like, obviously I'd like to be able to make a solid living off of my writing. Every author wants to be
Mhm.
the next Stephen King or Dan Brown. But honestly, like I just want fandom. Like money would be great, but I want people to scream at me
Same.
with my about my characters. Yeah, like just I want fan art. I want fics. I want people to
Mhm.
come in and just be like, "How dare you hurt my baby?" And then me just being
Mhm.
able to taunt them, and we have like fights, mock fights over it. Like I want that shit.
Yeah.
I want like the the Tamsin Lock Tomb style fandom. Like give me all that.
I want people to cry when they get a signed version of my book.
Absolutely. I want fresh tears. I want people to come up to me at a con and cosplay so that I can scream and cry and like take all
Yes.
the pictures with. Yeah.
Um, so I want to ask again. I asked you this the last time. What are you reading right now?
Right now, I am actually reading The Stardust Thief, and I completely blank on the author because I am terrible at remembering names.
Same.
Um, but it's The Stardust Thief, and it is actually it's a fabulous kind of like a reimagining of
Mm-hmm.
Arabian Nights. With its own kind of like special twist to it, I absolutely love the world building. I love the main characters, and I love where it's going. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm reading now. Finished before that, I finished Misrule by I think I have the book behind me. I think it's Heather Walters. Yes, I finished Misrule by Heather Walters, and then Malice before that. So I hurt my feelings a lot with those.
I haven't read any like cry your heart out stories in the past couple of months. I've read Marvel of Mystic, which is the book I just released a podcast episode on in June. I am currently reading The Ivies by Lexa Dunn. It's kind of amazing. I read The Undergrounder. Um, and then right before that, I reread They Both Die at the End in anticipation of Adam's new novel, The First to Die at the End. So that's kind of my reading
I mean,
journey.
I don't know why. Like with just that title alone, you'd be like, "Wow, that kind of does seem like it would hurt just a smidge."
I mean, the first time it was painful, but now I'm just like, I want to see the new people die.
Right? Yeah. Now you're in that sadist point where you're like, "Yes, let's suffer together."
Yeah, so I'm just like, I still feel it. It's still a little pain there, but it's just like I know when he released that new one, I'm gonna be done for.
Right. I think the last book that actually like got me into like actual full tears where I had to set it down and just like sob in my squad car was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I didn't sign up to have that kind of emotional trauma laid on me. I was embarrassed crying at work while I'm sitting there reading, like having to pretend like while I do my crossings, like, no, children, I'm not sobbing. It's fine. So that hurt my feelings a bit, but yeah, the other ones that I'm reading, like Malice and Misrule, it
Mhm,
definitely is like, ooh, oh, that definitely hurt. That stings a bit.
mhm,
But it wasn't, cry your eyes out, sob on your bed, 2 in the morning,
mhm.
awake staring at the ceiling kind of pain.
Yeah, that's that. I'm looking for the next, cause
We're always looking for that next fix.
yes, that next fix, exactly like you said. So why did you decide to put Underground up for sale during Pride Month?
Well, it's Pride Month, so I really wanted to get it into as many queer hands and maybe not queer hands as possible.
Mhm.
But it's also my birthday month. My birthday's on the
Oh.
25th. Yeah, so I wanted to kind of give back a bit, while still being able to make a little bit of revenue.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I wanted to get as many eyes on it as possible. And I've actually had an amazing sale run right now. I think I'm up at like 160 sold in the month.
Hmm.
So it's doing great. I hope all those people go and please review. please,
I need to.
please
Okay.
review.
With my review, I'm launching a website in January, hopefully, fingers crossed. Now I don't run into any more kinks. And I'm writing the full review on that website, but I'm also
Awesome.
going to put the sub review on Goodreads and Amazon. So,
Absolutely appreciate it. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. I do. We authors ask so little. Just, money and reviews, please.
but I would be scared because as soon as like, because you can see what star level
Yeah.
you're at, and then as soon as it
Mhm.
like at 5, I'm gonna be like off the wall. At 4, I'm still gonna be off the wall. But as soon as they drop down to 3 or to 2, I'm just gonna be looking like, whew.
I won't lie and say that it doesn't sting. And I think I've only gotten like 2 or 3 like 3-star reviews, and even then
Uh-huh.
I was like, ooh, why? Um, we got to remember that like the reviews aren't meant for us; it's meant for readers.
Yeah.
And people still read even if it's got low reviews because they want to see why.
Uh-huh.
So any review is good review because it boosts you in the algorithm.
Mhm.
So just kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, no, it is terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying to put your work out there and be like, please be nice. I'm nice. Please don't hurt me.
Could you tell me about this cover? Because I love it. Can you tell me like how it was made, what it means, like foreshadowing, da 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 da, etc.
Well, I think there's going to be more foreshadowing in the topsider cover. But
Okay.
actually, a hand, I think. Hankins. I'm please, Ashley, don't kill me if I pronounce that incorrectly. Oh my god. Um, Ashley is my cover artist, and we really wanted to kind of go about the cover in a different manner. And I know that's not really, it's very vague, so let me explain on that. A lot of romance novels, especially like lesbian romance or sapphic romance, they tend to have the same type of novel where it's got like, the silhouetted body of a lean figure,
Mm-hmm.
usually from the lips down at a slight angle with shadowing, and there's usually something salacious over the front to kind of
Mm-hmm.
give away that there's like some sexiness to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really didn't want to do any of that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Undergrounder is a romance. That is, it's billed as a romance. It's Beauty and the Beast retelling, so there it
Mm-hmm.
is in the title. Um, but it's also the beginning of an urban fantasy and a beginning to a wider world that will be later explored in the other books. So I really wanted to kind of capture on both of those. So I thought, what's an enticing cover for something like that? Oh, well, we should bring one of the MCs. And Alex, well, we love her to death. She is rather plain. I mean, like, God bless her. She's a disaster gay. We love,
Mm-hmm.
we love our our queen, who is, the
Our self-deprecating queen. We love
yeah,
our
yeah, our
we
queen
love
who has a
our
knack for,
for
yeah.
pick me, our queen who got on that. What did she get on? The Why am I drawing a blank? What is the tower that Lee took her to?
Oh, the
No.
Empire State Building.
Yep. Mm-hmm. We
Yep.
love our queen. We love
Also,
her.
the queen of escaping death
Oh,
multiple
oh,
times. Yeah.
multiple, back to back.
Multiple, yeah, back, yeah, just
Maybe
evading,
no, I wouldn't even
possible.
say it's escaping death. I would say it's dying and then waking up,
I mean, this
unbothered.
is there's that at least, but then there's a couple of other points where you're like, why are you so stupid? Why are you
Hmm.
like this? But so, well, we love Alex. We do love
We
Alex.
do. We
Our
love her.
our disaster queen. But she's not really, somebody who would be interesting on a cover. But Lee, oh my God, here we are, the cinnamon roll monster girl who's
Hmm.
got a heart of gold. I
I'm
was like,
the
well, let's
thing
put,
that gets me is the eyes. Oh my god. That
yeah, Ashley, yeah, she's got a thing for glowing eyes. She was like, "Can I make her eyes glow?" I'm like, "Please do, please, please. I need to sim.
bow down.
I
I'm
need to,
bowing down.
I, I need to sim at my trash queen,
Mhm.
my poor cinnamon roll baby, who just
Mhm.
deserves all the good things in the world." But yeah, so we really wanted to do her, and that was, who doesn't want to do her? I mean, but but we really wanted to show her in the forefront, and
Mhm.
we wanted that, that beckoning, handout, please come on an adventure with me, while, the way that she looks, you're like, oh my God, what is this monster creature? But she looks kind, and she's got her hand out. And so we wanted that hook to a potential reader
Mhm.
of, ooh, this is really interesting. And then they go and they read the blurb, and they're like, oh, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Ooh.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
but yeah, the topsider cover, that's gonna be a lot different, and I can't wait to
Ah.
drop that at some point soon.
Okay.
I can't hint of anything because it'll give some stuff away. But I think people are gonna be so mad at me.
Okay. Fun fact, really quickly before we move on to the next question. I don't know why. I remember that Undergrounder had a happy ending. I don't know where my brain I got that from. And then I
Where did you
reread.
get that
Yeah,
from?
that's what I was thinking. Like I was like, why did I think this had a happy ending? And then I read the ending again, and I was just like, it hurts a little, but I'm not gonna say that because I've read this before, and I don't want to. I don't understand how in my mind I got confused and thought this had a happy ending.
Oh, what is that syndrome where you kind of make up your own happiness around the trauma that you've been
Yeah,
exposed to? You're like,
that.
no, they all lived happily ever after. Damn it.
Yes, because I don't know why. Because I completely altered the scene where Alex is getting in the elevator and going back up topside. For some reason, I thought Lee was with her and they lived happily
Oh
ever.
no.
I don't know why. I don't know how that got in my mind, but that was my viewpoint. And then I reread it and I was just like, Hold on.
and got your feelings hurt. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I
like,
was like,
wait.
hold on. Do you believe that authors should draw and design their own book cover?
If you have the talent, by God, do it. I always tell people if I had the capabilities to draw and write stories, y'all would be fucked because like I would be all powerful.
Mm-hmm.
like I would be like the queen of webtoons at this
Forget
point.
no, forget Queen, Empress, Conqueror.
All right, yeah, I would be the empress of webtoons. Like lore who? No, no, never mind. But if you have the capabilities of doing it, do it. However, let me put that in huge bold brackets. However, I do feel like if you don't have that capability or if you're unsure, please find someone who can design you a good cover. I know so many people, so many really good writers who have amazing stories, absolutely stellar stories that go nowhere because they have a cover that they created essentially in Canva. And that's not a knock against Canva. It's an amazing site. I use it too. But if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know how to create a good grabbing cover,
Mhm.
your book's not going to go anywhere because your cover is your first hook, and I will pound that into the pavement until it is cemented there for eternity. Your cover is your first hook, your book blurb is your second hook, and your third is going to be your first chapter.
Mhm.
So just keep that in mind when anybody listening, keep that in mind when you go to start you know possibly writing, or to do the self-published route or to do the indie route.
Mhm.
Think about a cover, think about what you want, and if you can't create that yourself, then approach somebody. And there are thousands of people who are out there willing to help you with your cover. I mean, Ashley, I was just lucky enough to run across her page,
Mhm.
and I reached out on a whim, and she was like, yeah, let's definitely work together. And we ended up creating a friendship from it. And she will be my cover creator from now till whenever I'm done writing. So yeah, which will not be for a while. You guys have got it for a bit.
For a bit.
But so yeah,
Thank you.
that's the long-winded way of saying if you can do it, definitely. If you can't, or you feel like maybe you can't, find someone who can.
Mhm. So, are you happy with the current standing of Undergrounder?
I am absolutely ecstatic with this standing cover. I would change nothing about it. I absolutely love my baby. And I love the fact that I have a 7-foot standee of that cover that I put behind my table when I do signings. I'm like, look at my
Wow.
baby. Look at this child. Don't you love this child? Look at her.
Okay, so I didn't know that. I kind of want to see a picture with you next. The standing.
Oh, you didn't
Um,
see? Oh, you didn't see my big standee? Oh no, no! I took a
I
picture
did
of it when I
not.
did my Barnes and Noble signing. I'll have to send it to you.
Yes, that's all I was asking. Could you
I
send it to me?
okay. No, no, no. You're fine. That I will absolutely do that.
Hmm. And if you don't mind my asking, I was wondering if you could tell us, like, what is like, how are you making money from Undergrounder? Is it a lot? Is it a little? Is it livable? Is that something you're willing
So
to share?
I'm right. I'm making a fair amount right now. I
Mm-hmm.
think like altogether within the past 90 days, I think I've made maybe about almost 600
Mm-hmm.
in royalties, which in 90 days, divide that by three, it's not a humongous amount of money. But I've pretty much paid for my cover, or at least the first two runs of prints that I had. So it's coming in. I don't expect, like I said, I wasn't expecting to make huge money at any point. But it's doing fairly well, and that's why I wanted to run with the Kindle Unlimited and see, because Kindle Unlimited, unfortunately, because Amazon rules all. We do love Daddy Bezos.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I hate it so much. Um, my wife's in the background just looking at me, just giving me the worst look right now. But Kindle Unlimited does allow for books to kind of rise in the ranks in terms of like algorithm. So I'd like to see what kind of money it could make in 3 months on there. But for right now, at least it's enough to afford to kind of soften any blows for my bills. I can pay, what I can for my bills, and I'm more or less breaking even. So I'd say it's a win.
Okay. So I didn't know you had book signings, so I asked, uh, do you plan to do book signing? So could you just tell me the history of your book signings and any future ones?
So I do have one coming up. It's going
Hmm.
to be at the Bull Run Library in Manassas on the
Okay.
17th of July. I will be doing, I think it's a STEM or STEAM program that Barnes& Noble is putting
Hmm.
together, my local Barnes& Noble is putting together, and they're going to have local authors there to, kind of just, if it's STEAM, then it's the arts, so they want to, authors available. I So I do preface this is that I have grown up with my Barnes and Noble.
Hmm.
I moved here to my town when I was 8, and that was like the first place that I went. And I
Hmm.
have been going to that one since, and I am now 34. So I have essentially grown up there, and so they have watched me. The same managers have pretty much watched me over the years, and they knew that I wrote. So when it came around the time that I was releasing on the 1st of April, one of the managers, a friend of mine, approached me and was like, "Hey, would you like to come and do a signing? We actually do signings for our local authors, and this is for anybody listening. You can actually approach a your local Barnes and Noble, and ask. They do signings for local authors, and they usually do them in 6 months intervals. So you would do a signing, wait 6 months, and then do another signing. So I said yes, I would absolutely love to do a signing, and they set me up, and they provided a table, and they would do little shout outs throughout the day. I was there for about 4 hours. They did little shout outs, and people would come over, and like what you would expect in a signing, you have to kind of sell yourself there. And then at the end of the day, however much you make back at 70% consignment. So I made 70% off of what I charged, which was $16.99 for the book. So yeah, it was actually I think I ended up selling like 12 copies that day.
Hmm.
So it was a pretty good signing.
I didn't know. Ugh. Well, I'm lucky enough to be gifted a already signed copy, but I would have been there if I could have, if I even known about it. And I just want you to know that my signed book is definitely going to be a family heirloom. Read this book.
Oh,
It really is. Like I'm really going to make my kids read the book. I'm like, I got this signed. Like just telling them about how I started a
I'm so
podcast and
happy
I
about
met.
that.
Yeah, like I know I said a lot, but I really do feel like you were one of the people that pushed me into taking that next step because I've been writing since
Oh, I'm
I've
glad
been
to
in
hear
sixth
that.
grade. So for you just to be an amazing person and then for your book to be so amazing, I feel like that was the push I needed to say like, okay, I want to be like her. Let me get up there. Let me
Oh,
go. Let me get started.
no, I appreciate that.
Thank you, and I appreciate you more. Um,
No.
could you tell me how much, like the total price tag, if you could like guesstimate, how much it costs to put the Undergrounder into print format?
Let's see. If we're not counting the cover, um, let me do a quick. I am not a math gay, so give me 1 second. Let
I
me
have,
think of those numbers.
I am the best math gay. I just want to put that out there.
Okay, I'm actually gonna open up my calculator app right here on my computer so I can act like I actually know what I'm doing. I think it was like 135 for my editing, and I know it was 120 for the formatting, and then I ended up making an error, and almost had the entire book scrubbed. So that was a fun little mishap. Anybody listening, be very careful when you go onto Fiverr and try to find a proofreader. The one that I made the misfortune of
Hmm.
getting a hold of charged a fairly substantial amount of money and then completely wrecked my entire manuscript
Ooh.
from the first page to the last. It was pretty much completely obliterated. I had to scramble and get a friend of mine involved, and we essentially tag team for a week straight trying to fix everything that they
Hmm.
did.
Ooh.
So not counting that foobar.
Mhm.
And then let's do for the cover. So I'm looking at give or take in the ballpark of about 1,200.
Mhm.
And the only reason why I was able to kind of shell out that is that I preface this. I do have a job, a full
Mhm.
time job, and I was able to squirrel away money to be able to pay for that. I know
Mhm.
1,200 is a lot for people who don't have the means that I did, and I understand that, and that is definitely a chunk of change. But
Yeah.
that was getting a professional cover done. That was my foobar with the one person on Fiverr, and then that was
Mhm.
also my editing and my formatting.
Mhm.
So all of that combined, it was about 1,200. So
Mhm. And I only ask this question because I want to give people an accurate estimate of what it really takes to produce the quality that you did. And
right,
and like
right,
with me who wants to self-publish, that's a good, like, not necessarily in all be all, but maybe thing I can keep in the back of my mind when I go to do the process
right,
of
and
getting
that is
self-published.
yeah, yeah. That is I would say anywhere between 12 and 1,500 is a good amount to have set aside. You might spend less than that. You never know. It all depends. Like Undergrounder is a bit of a hefty book. It is at 120,000 words. So that did mean that there was a little bit more that went into editing
Mhm.
it. If you have a smaller book, it'll be less. If you do
Mhm.
novellas, it'll be even less than that. I will say, once again, pay for a good artist if you need to get somebody to do your book for you,
Mhm.
or do the book cover. So that'll probably set you back because artists need to be paid their due
Mhm.
diligence. Um, but beyond that, yeah, about that much is kind of what you look at for getting it published, at least into the part of like the professional publishing.
Mhm. So, just a random question that came to my mind. If What is the section you think authors should put the most money in?
I think that's going to be both your cover and your editing. So like we can self edit all that we want. And if you're really good at
Mhm.
editing, that's great. But once you've read your manuscript, 1,000 times, you are going to skim over easy
Ev-
mistakes.
Mhm.
So putting the money into having somebody who can actually copy edit or line edit for you, it's going to make all the difference in the world, especially if you're self-publishing. And I do love self-published books. There are some really amazing ones out there, but then there's some also not amazing ones out
Mhm.
there. And a lot of people, when they hear self-published, they immediately think that oh, it's subpar,
Mhm.
because there are unfortunately so many people out there who don't put that time and effort into it.
Mhm.
So it is kind of on our backs, unfortunately, to break that stigma. So yeah, definitely put the money into getting a good editor, and then look into getting a good cover. Those are the two hooks that you definitely need.
Mhm. So, can we? I know you kind of already answered this one. Look at you. uh, when can we expect the hardcover version of The Undergrounder?
So I hadn't thought about doing it yet, just
Oh.
because I haven't found a printer that I like yet. I've heard
Mhm.
that Lulu doesn't do bad on hardcovers, but they are a bit more pricey. And
Mhm.
Amazon has only just launched their most
Yep.
recent, like I think it's still in the beta feature.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I might try it and see. Maybe we'll
Mhm.
do a back to back of the two. If I did do Undergrounder hard copies, they would be in very very limited supply,
Mhm.
and more likely I would do an order form for them to see how many people would be interested. And once I got X amount of people interested, then I would place an order.
Mhm. Put me down now. Put me down.
So Dimitri is at the top of the list. I'm doing that
Yep.
now.
Put me down. Um, I mean, I love hardcovers. I love paperbacks, and if I really love a book, I get both. So that's just another one to add for me. And
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
hmm and like I said, I bought. Even though you gifted me one, which I'm extremely grateful, I did buy one to support you.
I seriously do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Did I? I think I did. Didn't I send you the picture with me in there?
No, I
Like,
don't think you ever did.
I must have sent it to my friend because I was like, I got another one.
Betrayal.
The betrayal. That's
The betrayal.
the betrayal. So, um, oh, can we expect a special edition of the Undergrounder? And what I mean by this is the Hate You Give actually has a special edition where the author she includes more material on like was the process. This was the process of me creating this book, and this was the backstory, and this is what I was going through in my mindset. Could we ever expect something like that, or even along the lines of an audiobook?
Um, okay, so audiobook is something I'm looking into. Once again, that is an extra expense, and I've
Hmm.
from the research I've done, it's a little bit more than your average printing costs because you have to
Yeah.
commission someone. So I would like to definitely once I get the funds and find someone who I like narration wise. As for a special edition, if I did anything, it would probably be on my website, which is at www.jeglasswrites.com. It's over on WordPress. If I did
Hmm.
anything, I would probably put it there since I don't feel like that would be something I'd want to charge people for. I love
Hmm.
talking about how my books are crafted and how my worlds are created.
Hmm.
So I don't know if I would necessarily do a special edition like that. However, if I did do a special edition of Underground, or what I would want to do is have art
Oh.
done. Yeah, have like illustrations throughout it, and maybe it would be a hardback with like embossing under the dust jacket,
Hmm.
something like a little special.
Hmm.
So possibly that I'd have to think about that in future, but I would definitely love to have someone do illustrations with. If I could find somebody, because my cover artist is very busy, so I'd be like, "Hey, Ashley, can you do this?" She'd be like, "No, I have too much work to do." But if I could find somebody who'd be willing to do that, I would absolutely love to do
Hmm.
illustrations.
I'm writing that down because I feel like that'll be an amazing idea. So what advice would you give to aspiring self-publishing authors?
Just knuckle down and be prepared for it to take a bit. It's going to take a bit to get the writing done. It's going to take a bit to get your cover. It's going to take a bit to get your editing done and your formatting. Be realistic about your timeline. Set a goal like mine was, for April, and realistically, I could have pushed that back a bit more. That's what I'm doing with my next one, that Blood and Time with can't speak, with Blood and Times coming out. Is I'd like for it to be next April, but I might have to push it to July just because of time and how much it takes to get it done. But also just unless you hit that lottery, you're not going to be an instant bestseller. So don't get discouraged. There are days where I don't sell a single copy, and then suddenly I sell nine, or three, or one. So just be prepared to also market and market, and try to get as many people in on your book as possible. But just it's a time thing. It's a time suck. It's a second job, and as long as you're ready to do that, you'll do fine.
Hmm. What, like, can you like just wrap up in the one phrase? Which ones were the best and which ones were the worst part of self-publishing?
Best part of self-publishing was seeing the final formatted piece of my book in front of me. Best part, being able to physically hold that. Worst
Hmm.
part would be the editing and formatting process, just because it takes so long and there's a lot of heavy thinking involved with that.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I would also slightly amend that with the marketing, because while editing and formatting is part of the game, trying to market and learning those ropes are equally hard. So I kind of went over that one one sentence
Hmm.
phrase, but it's a even toss up.
Hmm. Um, I when I like went back to, like, I was going to start reading Blood and Times before this, right after I've completed the underground or print version.
Oh no,
And I
and
went
it's not
back.
there.
Yes, I was like, what happened to your Wattpad account?
I okay, so Wattpad's great, but Wattpad also has a problem with a lot of their stories being stolen by mirror sites and a couple of other sites. And so Blood and Times actually got stolen by a couple of mirror sites and one very
Hmm.
nefarious other site who claimed to be me.
Hmm.
So we speaking as me and other authors, we had fought trying to get our books down and
Hmm.
put out DCMAs and cease and desists, and they just kept popping up. And I was really afraid because I was going through and doing a whole overhaul on Bat that having the old version out there, especially if I kept updating, would be both confusing and then could also possibly lead to like legal issues.
Hmm.
So I just decided because I had already taken Undergrounder down and I was tired of having my work stolen that I was just going to go ahead and close the account, which
Hmm.
it did hurt my heart. And I wish I could have brought everybody who I had on there over to my Twitter, because I do miss talking with a lot of people who didn't have Twitter. But
Hmm.
ultimately, I just had to do what was best for my book.
Hmm. Which I understand.
I will be publishing Blood and Tines, same way I did Undergrounder, through Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I'll probably with that one, because I know the ropes a bit more, and I already have everything kind of squared away. I'm just polishing up the story. Is I'm going to do a bigger pre-order on that one through Amazon, as well as through physical copies, and I'm also thinking of doing hardback with this one. Uh, with a specialty on sprayed edges, which I will actually be doing myself, spraying the edges and signing books. So those will be special edition. Since Blood and Tines is a single novel, but it is the foundational novel for the rest of the world that I'm building. So I kind of want to do some special stuff with it, now that I know what I'm doing essentially. With the original version, I think the thing that I changed the most was that I brought in another aspect of Lee's personality. I really wanted to play with that Jekyll and Hyde style storytelling, since that's actually my absolute favorite. I would love to do a Jekyll and Hyde retelling someday. Um, but I wanted to bring in Farrell, and I really wanted to play with Farrell and see what I could do with that underlying personality that kind of starts to peek through later on in the story. And then obviously, like how that leads into what's going to happen in the sequel, which I'll apologize in advance for because I'm going to get so much hate.
So, how did you celebrate the completed version of Undergrounder?
I think I just kind of sat there and blinked, and then my wife was like, "I'm taking you out for dinner," and I was like, "What?" And that was pretty much it. Like, it's very surreal. Like, I wanted to say, I'd like to say that there's like this big party, but really, it was just like, oh, it's done.
Mhm.
Okay. I will say I did have a really awesome launch party. Had that about
Oh.
a week before it kicked off, and I had all my friends and family and a couple of colleagues of mine. We went and rented out the back part of one of my favorite roadhouses, and we were
Mhm.
just rowdy and ate, drank, were merry, talked about books,
Mhm.
sold some that were there. And so, yeah, did that.
Mhm. Um, so throughout this process of, writing the Undergrounder, turning it into print format, what was like the space that kept you going? How did that space look like? Was it a clear desk? Was it a messy background?
Is literally a glider rocker and a footstool in my room. That was
Mhm.
it. Like, I've since cleaned a bit more, but I have an old glider rocker that's my baby.
Mhm.
It's my comfy chair, and I put my laptop on my knees and my feet up on my rocker,
Mhm.
and I just sit there and I do my thing. Like,
Mhm.
I wish it was something cool, but it's not.
Same. It's literally my chair and my desk for me.
Right? You're like, ah, yes, my den where I write. Meanwhile, you're sitting there like school desk, like, yes, this is where I do my magic.
Yep, this is where it's at. So what would you say to, I'm gonna specify Lee, Alex, and Rebecca if you could meet them?
Please don't kill me. I think it would just be apologies and then probably running because I think Alex might shoot me. I mean, actually, no. Let's amend that. Rebecca would shoot me,
Hmm.
then Alex, and then Lee would just be like, "Leave her alone. She meant well." Your you would say your suffering is not in vain. Like,
You made
I
me
have a
money. It's
plan.
okay.
You made me money. You're my
Um,
cheap whore. It's fine. I'm just your pimp. Um, yeah, I love those posts to be like, if your main character popped up, at your
mhm,
front door, what would you do? And it'd be like, honestly, I'd run because like all of my MCs are out for my blood at
mhm,
this point. I have no hope. I would
mhm,
be 6 feet under so many times.
mhm. For me, this is kind of a spoiler. So, For me, I may or may not be a character in my own book series, not in my book that I'm writing.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's not one of those I'm perfect characters, if that's what you're wondering. um,
It's not that self insert, savior process.
it's a bit more complicated. Like one character, he literally messaged me on Twitter. It's complicated, but I hope people will get it. um,
I think they will, but yeah, don't spoil too much because
yeah,
we want to be surprised.
surprise. So, what is the update on Topsider?
So, Topsider right now, I actually have the opener done, done, done.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wild bit of wild bit of storytelling, but it is paused for the moment
Mm-hmm.
because I'm working on Blood and Tines,
Mm-hmm.
which is a much heavier story. So I gotta put all my focus into that.
Mm-hmm.
After Bat is done, once that is finished and ready to go, then I will jump straight into Undergrounder. That's my solemn promise. I have
Mm-hmm.
nothing else planned after that.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start cranking that out. But I do have a pretty solid beginning, middle, and end. I've got the
Mm-hmm.
scaffolds for Topsider done now. The ending is all done. Like in my head, I could sit down right now and pretty much type it out,
Mm-hmm.
scene for scene. I've got the last 3 or 4 chapters already finished. It's just filling in the gaps and kind of playing with some new characters that we're gonna meet along the way. Cedric's gonna make a bit more of an appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's a good or bad thing, we'll have to leave that to
It's a
interpretation.
bad
And
thing.
we don't know. He's yeah. God bless him. He's a necessary evil. So we will we'll know what that means later on. But so yeah, it's got a solid scaffold. I just got to put the meat and the rest of the skin on the story to really kick it off.
Mm-hmm. And the last question of this podcast episode is like, what can we expect from you in the future?
So obviously we have Topsider that will be
Mm-hmm.
coming out along, and then the third installment of that will be Insider.
Ooh,
So we do have
I
those two.
like these
Yeah.
titles.
So yeah. Well, we love the endings there because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be cool and make up my own words here.
Mm-hmm.
So we have those three. That's the Undergrounder trilogy or the Underground trilogy are those three: Undergrounder, Topsider, and Insider.
Mm-hmm.
Blood and Tines is the foundational story that actually starts back in 1667,
Mm-hmm.
Scotland. So that's the foundational for the world that I'm creating. And then after that, we have my big baby, and that will be Ether Roots, which is a standalone, which will
Mm-hmm.
kind of bring all of these worlds, both Blood and Tines, Undergrounder, and a couple of others, into full circle and kind of finish the story of the community there.
Uh,
And that's an enormous novel. I am so amped to write that one. If I'm being honest, those are my babies.
mm-hmm.
The forecast members for that and the world that I've created for them is
Mm-hmm.
it's enormous and it's amazing, and I cannot wait to have people meet them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so those are the 5 main stories that I have planned. There may be a few spin-offs along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I had an idea for a couple of spots that would include some of Cedric and his crew, fun little caper novels. But beyond that, just those 5 for right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Well, I can't wait. Make sure to email me or text me or whatever you have to do, because I'm definitely going to buy it. Definitely going to buy it.
Just send you links on Discord and be like, hey, Dimitri, here you go.
Yep, just send me links or not Discord. No, but you can send me a link on literally anything. Twitter. I don't never text people on Twitter, but yeah, and I'll buy it. And hopefully, maybe, possibly, you can keep the signed editions of the Undergrounder series. Let them keep coming. I stand that.
Okay, I mean, like I said, I will put out a call for those who would want a hard copy, and we could work something out.
Mm-hmm.